Welcome to the What Sleep podcast, where we talk about all things crime, conspiracy, paranormal, and mystery. I'm Timothy,
I'm Bailey.
and let's get right into it.
My case today is the case of Gypsy Blanchard and Dee Dee Blanchard.
Okay, I don't know this one.
Okay, great. It's a wild one.
So you've been telling me.
It is something. It's something. All right.
I don't know if I'm ready.
So we'll get started. Claudine or Dee Dee, and I think it's Pitre. It's Pitre.
Last names are hard.
Was born in Chack Bay, Louisiana in 1967 as one of 5 siblings. Her early life was interesting, to say the least.
Okay.
As a child, her family recalls that when things didn't go her way, she would steal small things from them and was even suspected of denying her mother food, causing her death in 1997 when she was older.
World? Okay.
So Dee Dee actually worked as a nurse's aide during which she cared for her mother.
Sounds like a really bad nurse.
There are bad nurses out there. There's good nurses. I think she was just crazy.
Bit of both.
By all accounts, it doesn't seem that her early life was looked on favorably by any of her family. And we'll circle back around to that at the end.
Sounds good. Okay. I just can't get over that. She's like, yeah, I'm just going to deprive my mother of food until she starves to death.
Right. Well, it's suspected. It was never concluded that that's what happened, but many of her family believed that she was depriving her of food. And
well, I think if it's suspected, you're a scumbag. Like, they have their own reasons to suspect you of it. So,
well, she wasn't really liked much as a child by her family.
So does it give you a right to starve your mother to death?
It's conjecture.
I guess.
Dee Dee became pregnant with her first and only child at the age of 24 with her then husband, Rod Blanchard, who was 17 at the time. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was born in July of 1991, shortly after the couple's separation. Rod claimed that they got married for the wrong reasons, and despite Dee Dee's efforts to get him back, he refused, and Dee Dee took Gypsy to live with her family in Louisiana.
Second case in Louisiana.
Huh? Oh, yeah, that's true. It was between this one or another one that's in Louisiana, which I'll probably do soon.
What is it? The axe murder of New Orleans?
No.
Oh.
Madame Lalaurie.
Oh, right.
Remember?
Okay.
Rod remained involved with Gypsy regardless and recounts one of the first incidents in Gypsy's life in which Dee Dee became convinced that Gypsy had a whole range of health issues. At just 3 months old, Dee Dee was convinced that Gypsy suffered from sleep apnea.
Ooh.
And the two began staying overnight at the hospital for sleep monitoring and testing for the condition. Often they went to this hospital and did this.
Okay. I assume we have results of that or no?
All of these studies and tests returned with no sign of anything wrong with Gypsy.
Okay. So are they just looking for something wrong with her?
Maybe.
Probably. If they didn't like her. We just need a reason to get rid of you.
Well, this is Dee Dee doing this with her daughter.
Oh, okay.
Dee Dee is the one that her family didn't like her.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Gypsy was born and they moved back in with her family because they needed a place to stay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got it confused.
Dee Dee wasn't convinced of these test results, though, and instead attributed Gypsy's condition to an unspecified chromosomal disorder. Like a mental.
So
like autism.
Okay.
Yeah. For sleep apnea.
Because those two coincide.
Yeah, I don't. Dee Dee's a psycho.
Apparently.
Around 7 or 8 years old, Gypsy was involved in a minor accident on her grandfather's motorcycle. Very minor, like she probably just fell over off of the motorcycle.
Just like a scraped elbow.
She only suffered a small abrasion to her knee,
Oh, dang.
which Dee Dee said was a visible sign of an unseen injury that would require several surgeries to treat.
What?
A little cut on her knee.
Oh.
That's all it was.
I forgot she has a PhD. My bad.
She does, and she's a nurse. A nurse's aide. She wasn't a nurse. She was a nurse's aide.
So you couldn't even make it as a nurse. You got to be a nurse's aide. I'm kidding. We appreciate nurse aides.
How could you?
What? I just don't like her.
No, not many people do.
Good. Deserves it.
After this, Gypsy was made to use a walker and became confined to a wheelchair.
She doesn't? Okay.
It was around this age as well that Gypsy stopped attending school to be homeschooled by Dee Dee because her illness was, quote unquote, too severe to continue public education.
What? Okay. So she's just making Gypsy seem like she has a lot wrong with her.
Yeah.
For no reason other than she's a psycho.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's disgusting.
Gypsy was only able to learn to read by teaching herself through books. Some of her favorite books were the Harry Potter series.
Oh, that's cute.
She read a lot of Disney stuff too. She pretty much grew up, or her
My
whole
favorite
entire
book was
childhood.
Rainbow Fish.
The Rainbow Fish?
Yeah, man, with those like,
the sequins?
super pretty sparkles.
Yeah. My favorite book as a kid was Edward the Emu.
Oh, Edward the Emu.
Have you ever seen that book?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Just to show you. Hold on. Edward.
That and the Hungry Hungry Caterpillar. Even though there's absolutely no words in that book. It's literally just a picture book.
I was obsessed with this book when I was a kid.
Let me see this cover. oh, wait, no, yeah. I recognize that.
It was the best. Is this the whole book? There's no pictures. Come on.
Scumazed, bro.
Oh. So during this time is when Dee Dee's father remarried. Dee Dee and Gypsy moved to live with Dee Dee's father and stepmother, and not long after the two, Dee Dee's father and stepmother, they both claim that Dee Dee attempted to kill Laura, who's the stepmother, by putting weed killer in her food over time.
Jesus. Okay.
After which, Laura was actually bedridden for 9 months.
Oh, I'm sure if you digest some of that.
Yeah, I think it was Roundup or something. I'm pretty sure it was Roundup.
Note to self: don't eat weed killer. Not a good condiment.
No, it's not.
Why is it spicy?
No.
Sorry, I had to include that in at least one episode.
It's so beautiful. It's the best thing that's ever existed. Dee Dee was arrested for several minor offenses as well, including writing bad checks and petty theft again.
Okay. So just a kleptomaniac with severe mental problems. Got it.
It was not long before Dee Dee's father and stepmother began to confront Dee Dee on her actions and treatment towards Gypsy. And in turn, Dee Dee actually moved herself and Gypsy to Slidell, Louisiana.
So they saw what Dee Dee was doing to her daughter and they didn't, hey, no, you can't take her?
Well, they started to confront her and say, we don't really believe what you're saying. All these conditions that Gypsy has, we don't really believe that she has them. And before they could really do anything about it, Dee Dee moved with her daughter. And it's noted that after the move, Laura's health had significantly improved. So
curious.
Dee Dee and Gypsy came to live in public housing in Slidell, paying their bills with public assistance awarded to the two for Gypsy's medical conditions, accompanied by the child support paid by Rod. Much of their time at
I hate that name. I'm sorry. It's such a dumb name.
It's just Rod.
Do you think he did porn? Never mind. That's just
moving on. Much of their time at this point was spent seeing specialists for different ailments that Dee Dee was claiming of Gypsy. And it's claimed that Gypsy was now suffering from hearing and vision problems, muscular dystrophy, seizures, and even undergoing several surgeries at Dee Dee's request for minor ailments. None of these claims had any validity.
Okay, so did she just say that she had these surgeries done, or did she
Nope,
actually find someone to do these
she
surgeries?
had these surgeries done. She was just insistent and said
What
that
doctor was like, sure?
many doctors,
What?
many
Take their
doctors.
licenses away right now.
Yeah,
What?
that's what I was saying. It's like, what, like, why did nobody catch on to that, to all of this stuff that was happening? It's
My
like, how did nobody
God.
catch on to this? Doctors did continue to treat Gypsy with medications, like anti-seizure medications and ointments and stuff for different things. There's different surgeries that I'll talk about later that she ends up getting that pretty much just alter her for the rest of her life.
What in the world?
Very unfortunately.
Oh, doc, my daughter, she got a small scrape on her knee. She needs a whole new kneecap. Sure, I gotcha.
It was actually after Hurricane Katrina hit that it was suggested to Dee Dee by doctors that they relocate to Missouri to better treat Gypsy's mysterious illnesses. So that kind of coincides with, like, one thing she was claiming was that her medical records and her birth certificate were actually destroyed in the flooding. So she could probably get away with saying that Gypsy had all these ailments by just convincing them, like, hey, she
But
has been diagnosed, don't have the records, just came from Hurricane Katrina. I can't show you proof, but she has these things. Can you give her this surgery? You know
but
what I mean?
personally, at least if I was a doctor, if a patient comes in and they're like, "Oh, I lost all my medical records during Hurricane Katrina," sure, we'll just give you a quick examination to be sure.
Exactly. But
Like, I feel like that's standard
it's
procedure.
checks and balances people weren't making, basically.
Oh my
These
god.
doctors just
That's frustrating.
it is. This whole thing is frustrating. So they did end up moving to Missouri at the suggestion, and they rented a home in Aurora, Missouri. Gypsy was honored by the Olay Foundation, who are advocates for the rights of feeding tube recipients. She was recognized in 2007 as Child of the Year. In 2008, the two moved to a home built by Habitat for Humanity. They received media attention for the story of a single mother and a severely disabled daughter who were forced to flee Katrina's devastation, and the community really pulled together to help the two with whatever they could, like bills,
That's
groceries.
so sad that of all people who probably needed it the most,
Yeah, these
that's
two.
someone who's brainwashing her daughter into thinking she has all these problems and convincing people that she has all these problems, ends up
It's
getting all
horrible.
this good stuff from, people just being
All these resources.
nice,
Yeah,
just trying to help out, and she's just taking advantage of that.
yeah.
Ugh.
It's really horrible. And actually, in addition to the home that was built for them, charity was beginning to pour in, and they were receiving free flights to Kansas City for doctor's appointments,
Yo,
free
come
trips to
on.
Disney World. They often got backstage passes to Miranda Lambert concerts, which they both really enjoyed her music.
But she has hearing problems.
It's it's that's just what they were given. On Gypsy's 18th birthday, Rod called her on the phone and wished her a happy birthday, and recalls being told by Dee Dee before speaking to her not to mention her age, as she, quote, thinks she's 14.
What?
Rod and his second wife regularly hoped to visit Gypsy, though all plans were always thwarted for any reason Dee Dee would give to. Though all plans were always thwarted for any reason Diddy. I can't do this.
P. Diddy! When did he make an appearance?
Though all plans were always thwarted for any reason Dee Dee would give to change plans. So they didn't really get the opportunity to visit
So,
almost ever.
when they split, they didn't have, like, a custody agreement
I
thing?
guess not. He wanted to remain in her life, obviously. Like, he wanted to be a present father.
Yeah.
She just was making it incredibly difficult for that to happen. Anytime that he attempted to
Yeah, anything that might threaten her
contact
getting all
or,
this free stuff for her
well,
quote unquote disabled daughter.
yeah. And I mean, Rod was actually very convinced because he didn't get to see her all the time. And when he spoke to her, obviously Gypsy believes that she's sick.
Yeah. So
So
of course
he
she's
didn't know any
gonna
better.
tell him all about it, right?
Right. He doesn't know that he knows she's in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
he's under the impression just as much as Gypsy is that she's sick.
This is
It's insane. It
disgusting.
is. It's gross. Her neighbors remember being told by Dee Dee that Gypsy's father was an abusive drug addict and an alcoholic who never came to terms with Gypsy's health issues, and he never sent them any money, despite his actual attempts to being a present father. He sent her gifts, he called often, and
And he was paying child support, wasn't he?
he's paying $1,200 of child support every year throughout her life. And really is super unfortunate because with her believing that she's 14 and no birth certificate, he's still going to have to continue to do that, which I'm sure he would gladly do.
Oh yeah.
But
But
if he weren't able to or decided not to, he would still have to continue paying 4 years after her 18th birthday because the law believes that she's only 14 at this time.
jeez,
You know what I mean?
Man, this is just
It's insane.
disgusting behavior. Oh my.
Neighbors also recall seeing Gypsy as a small girl with nearly no teeth at this point. She had large glasses and a high pitched voice, and no one ever really suspected Dee Dee of misinformation or abuse. And I'm actually going to show you a picture of Gypsy and Dee Dee. So here's Gypsy. I believe that was around the time of her 18th birthday. And that's her mom, Dee Dee. So Gypsy's this cute little girl. You know, I think she's about 5 foot. And
You can tell she's super into Disney by the mini hat.
Yeah, well, all of her mom would allow her to watch her Disney movies basically, and pretty much treated her like a kid her entire life, and it kind of stunted her, like
mentally stunting.
Like not I don't want to say stunted because she went on to become like very intelligent and like she taught herself how to read. Like she had a zest for knowledge, you know. It's not like it was going to stop her, but she pretty much grew up like a child throughout her life.
She just looks so loving.
She's sweet. She's got these beautiful brown eyes, and you know she's got a big smile. She's a very happy kid.
And then there's Shrek over there.
Her mom, I don't know too much about like how tall she was, but same thing, brown eyes. They're both brunettes.
Like I could picture her just thinking right now in this picture as she's sitting there holding Gypsy. She's just like, look at my little cash cow right here.
Basically,
like,
at that point.
Disgusting.
And what's really sad is like she often wore hats and things like in this picture. She wore hats and wigs all the time because her mom would actually shave her hair.
Wow.
So that she was bald. It is very sad.
So saddening. Saddening.
Yeah, so that was actually the next thing I was going to bring up was Dee Dee often shaved Gypsy's hair as another thing to reinforce the image of illness. As Dee Dee claims, Gypsy was receiving chemotherapy treatments for leukemia, and I don't believe she was actually getting those treatments because she couldn't, but she was telling everybody that she was being treated for leukemia. And it's horrible because Gypsy's believing all this, you know. She actually thinks she has leukemia. She thinks she has muscular dystrophy, so she can't walk, you know. She's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, and, just assuming that, she hasn't been walking for most of her life because she's been forced to be in a wheelchair, thinking that she's disabled. Her legs are probably don't work anyways now.
They do. So she's been told and she's led to believe that she can't walk, and she's like, okay, well, I can't walk, but at the back of her head she's like, okay, but I can move my legs. Like what's that all about? You know,
but,
so
my thing is like if you don't actively use them.
Well, over time, I mean, she was moving them, but over time she pretty much just learned to act like she couldn't walk because the lie couldn't really go on further because
So
Gypsy was like, yeah, Gypsy was just like, okay, but I can move my legs. So over time she believed.
Okay.
She believed she couldn't. It's very confusing because she believed what she was told, which is that she can't walk. But she's also like, okay, but I can still move my legs, so why can't I walk? And her mom was
like maybe like behind her mom's back, she was just like,
yeah, she'd walk around, jump. And I think there's a video of her actually jumping into snow during a winter Christmas, and you can see like her jumping off the porch into the snow, and then her getting up and like acting like she can't use her legs for image for the neighbors, I guess. She's like picking up her legs, which It's just very strange. The mental gymnastics that I'm sure she had to
And
go
I can't
through.
imagine growing up like
I
that.
know. It's confusing and
Wow.
like it has to take a mental toll on her.
Oh, yeah.
So, all the while throughout her experience, Gypsy didn't know any better and she was entirely convinced she was just a sick child. Anywhere the two went, an oxygen tank and feeding tube were brought with them. Gypsy was fed Pediasure throughout her life through this tube well into her 20s.
Wow.
Physical abuse in the home was not uncommon either. Anytime Gypsy said anything in public that referenced the fact that she seemed to feel just fine or call any question to her illness, Dee Dee would give her a shoulder or a hand squeeze, a really tight shoulder or hand squeeze to kind of warn her. Uh,
Like, you say something, you're gonna get it when we
right.
get home.
Well, when they would be by themselves in private, uh, Dee Dee would actually hit Gypsy, like like open hand hit her in the face, and Gypsy claims that she would hit her with hangers, and
Ooh.
yeah, it was just abusive, and all of this for disobeying, pretty much.
Disgusting human being.
Even still, medical treatments continued for new and old conditions. There was actually a treatment of Botox that was administered for excessive drooling, which Dee Dee would stage by giving Gypsy a numbing aesthetic to cause her to drool before her doctor's appointments so that she could get the Botox injected, which I guess would stop the drooling or something.
Okay, so what's the point in doing that for her?
It's just another ailment, just another thing that's wrong with Gypsy, you know?
Jeez, dude.
Yeah. Eventually, the treatment accompanied with the anti-seizure medication would cause Gypsy's teeth to decay. And they actually ended up getting removed and replaced with like a bridge for false teeth. So she did lose her teeth to this. Tubes were also implanted in her ears due to the myriad of quote unquote ear infections that,
Oh, I had that when I was born.
yeah, but she never really suffered from them.
Yeah.
So,
See, when I was born, I had like a cartilage deficiency in my ears. So I had to have tubes up until I was like 10 years old. I had to
really,
get them replaced twice a year.
I hate
I
that.
would constantly get ear infections.
I'd hate that so much.
It sucks.
Ear infections hurt.
I always know when I'm about to get an ear infection because I'll just wake up one day and I'm just like sit up and I'm like, I know.
Today's the day.
I'm like, yeah. It
Let's
actually happened
go.
like I think last year or the year before that. I just woke up one day and I was like, oh, really? This is gonna happen now? It's been so long since I've had one.
Right.
And I just woke up and sure enough,
There's an ear
next
infection.
day went to the doctor because I was like having like leaking.
Yeah.
Gross. But I went to the doctor and I was like, I already know what this is, ear infection. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, I've had them since I was like a baby. And so they did it and they're like, yeah, it's an ear infection. I'm like, I know it is. Just give me what I need, please. Honestly, the worst part about an ear infection is I really don't like feel pain from it. Honestly, the thing that hurts the most is just the eardrops they give me.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember an ear infection that I got was super painful. All I remember was the pain. Like, I don't remember a lot else, but
like it's just gross
hurts
because
so
like like the little leaky bit.
Yeah.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah, it's really gross.
Yeah, it doesn't really hurt for me. It's just
You're gross. I'm just just kidding.
I'm just gonna see my way out.
We have the rest of this podcast.
Finish
to
it
do.
yourself.
What? All right. So let's actually talk about something called Munchausen syndrome.
Okay. Sounds familiar. I don't think I know exactly what it is, but
yeah, well, specifically Munchausen by proxy. So Munchausen syndrome is actually it's what happens when somebody believes that they're sick with an ailment. So they'll get like a pain in their foot or something, and they'll be like, I have to get it amputated. I have cancer in my foot or something. Or they'll come up with something in their head and convince themselves that they have an illness they don't really have, and be entirely convinced of it.
So is it kind of like related to like that ghost arm syndrome thing?
I mean, kind of. Yeah, I mean that can be something that would.
For those of you who don't know, like when I'm talking about the ghost arm syndrome, it's a condition where some people who come home from like war or something, where they lose like an arm during battle or whatever, like they'll feel Like their arm is still there.
Yeah, they'll actually feel pain from it one
Yeah, they'll,
day,
like, actually
as if
feel
their
pain
hand.
from it as though,
Yeah,
like, their hand is still there or
yeah,
whatever, and they just can't really come to terms with it. Like, they'll feel like you're like, it's getting blown off
yeah,
constantly, and they'll need, like, morphine to keep it down even though they're totally fine. The brain just constantly
yeah.
tricks them into thinking it's happening over and over.
So it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of the opposite of that because nothing's actually happening to people with Munchausen syndrome.
Well,
They're just convincing themselves that something
yeah,
is.
I
So
mean,
kind of similar.
kinda similar, but not exactly the same,
Right.
but
So Munchausen by proxy is the same thing, except for whoever has the Munchausen syndrome is convinced that somebody they're close to, typically a mother and their child, has all these illnesses. So kind
yeah.
of like what Dee Dee's doing with Gypsy. So Munchausen by proxy is a mental. This is pulled from. So this information is pulled from uofmhealth.org.
University of Michigan, I assume?
Yeah, yeah, University of Missouri.
University of Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Munchausen syndrome by proxy is a mental health problem in which a caregiver makes up or causes an illness or injury in a person under his or her care, such as a child, an elderly adult, or a person who has a disability. Because vulnerable people are the victims, Munchausen by proxy is a form of child abuse or elder abuse. The cause of this is mostly of the abuser's need for attention, financial gain, or control. There are thousands of cases of Munchausen by proxy all over the world, and oftentimes it leads to severe medical problems for the victim in adulthood, and sometimes even death. There's actually,
Wow.
yeah, there's actually a case in Ohio that was caught on camera, and you can actually see this on YouTube if you look it up. There's a mother, her name is Candida Flutie. She injected her son's IV bag while he was getting treatment for I think it was some sort of lung or liver problem. She injected his IV bag with fecal matter to make him sicker.
Wow.
And she was caught, obviously, and sentenced to 6 years in prison for the incident.
That's it?
And he actually ended up surviving. So,
I mean, good, but that's it? 6
yeah.
years for almost
Well, I'm
killing
sure.
somebody like
Yeah.
that?
It's,
Yo, no.
well, I don't know if her intent was to kill, but she definitely was
Well,
trying to make him sicker by giving him infection, you know?
regardless, that could easily kill him,
Yeah, 100%.
especially if he's already having
In the
problems with, like, his liver,
right,
which, you know,
filters
processes
out.
that
Yeah,
stuff out.
right. It's very sad.
Jeez, man.
I have to
I didn't realize it was such a crazy problem.
Yeah, so it's actually a huge problem, and there's thousands of cases of it. So Bernardo Flasterstein is a pediatric neurologist who saw Gypsy in Springfield and became suspicious of her muscular dystrophy diagnosis. He ordered MRIs and blood tests, which found no abnormalities. He quotes, "I don't see any reason why she doesn't walk." He told Dee Dee on a follow-up visit after seeing Gypsy stand and support her own weight. So Flasterstein noted that Dee Dee was not a good historian either. After contacting Gypsy's doctors in New Orleans, he learned that Gypsy's original muscle biopsy had come back negative, uh, undermining Dee Dee's self-reported diagnosis for muscular dystrophy, as well as her claim that Gypsy's records had been destroyed by the flooding. So he discovered that they weren't actually destroyed. They were still there, and it was just fabricated by Dee Dee.
Wait, so how did he find out that they were still there?
He called New Orleans. Her doctor's in New Orleans.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I just said that. Timothy. I'm
My
just
bad.
kidding.
I guess I zoned out that part.
It's okay. He suspected the possibility of Munchausen syndrome by proxy at this point. Dee Dee was contrived to gain access to Flasterstein's notes and subsequently stopped taking Gypsy to see him. Flasterstein did not follow up by reporting Dee Dee to social services, and he said he had been told by doctors to treat her with quote-unquote golden gloves, and doubted the authorities would believe him anyway.
And
In 2009, an anonymous caller told police about Dee Dee's use of different names and birth dates for herself and her daughter, and suggested that Gypsy was in better health than claimed. Officers who performed the resulting wellness check accepted Dee Dee's explanation that she used the misinformation to make it harder for her abusive ex, Rod, who's not an abusive ex, to find her and Gypsy without talking to Rod. and reported that Gypsy seemed to genuinely be mentally handicapped, and the file was closed.
Jeez, man. Come on.
Okay, so yeah, back to the hurricane. The claim that her birth certificate and medical records were destroyed. Dee Dee was actually able to forge another birth certificate for Gypsy, and she made Gypsy's birth year 1995, which is why she believes she's 4 years younger than she is.
How do you just forge a birth certificate?
You can do anything you want with enough charisma. It's
Apparently.
insane. It is insane. And this was to bolster the claims that she was still a teenager to continue to get benefits. Gypsy claimed in later interviews that she was never sure of her real age her entire life. In 2011,
That's so sad.
it is sad. Yeah, she doesn't know anything about. She knows that her life is full of lies, but she doesn't know what to believe.
Like she doesn't
You
know
know
to
what I
what
mean?
extent.
Right.
Man.
In 2011, at a sci-fi and fantasy convention, which Gypsy often went to because she was a huge nerd and it's adorable.
That is cute.
Gypsy made, and she dressed up and like did cosplay and stuff.
Oh, for
whatever,
real?
Yeah, whatever she could while she was still in her wheelchair.
I'm trying to see that. I bet
there's
that's awesome.
Probably pictures. Gypsy had actually made an alleged escape attempt that ended when Dee Dee found out, and Dee Dee actually found her in a hotel room with a man that she had met online.
Oof.
Dee Dee threatened to inform the police, citing Gypsy's false age, and subsequently smashed Gypsy's computer with a hammer, threatening to do the same with her fingers if she ever tried to escape again. And at this point, Gypsy's actually 20 years old.
Wow. And she's still being led to believe that she's like, what, 14?
So at this point, she would be
16, something like that, right? 4 years younger?
Yeah, 16.
Jeez,
She
man.
thinks she's 16. She kept Gypsy leashed and handcuffed to her bed for 2 weeks after this incident.
All right. Jesus.
Dee Dee filed a report with police claiming that Gypsy was mentally incompetent, and Gypsy believed that if she attempted to go to the police, she would be dismissed because of this. Because
disgusting, dude.
It's horrifying.
God.
In 2012, Gypsy, who snuck around for access to the internet, because remember her mom destroyed her laptop, made contact online with a man around her age named Nicholas. I think it's Godejan.
Godejan sounds like a pizza. Godejan. I
think it's Godejan.
Sounds like a really good pasta place.
So yeah, in 2012, she made contact with Nicholas Godejan from Wisconsin. They began a relationship in secret, and in 2014, Gypsy confided in a neighbor that she was close with that she and Nicholas had actually discussed eloping, and they'd even had names picked out for potential children if they ever were able to get married and, be adults, because she's an adult.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's all she's got.
That's all she's got. So the neighbor actually grew really concerned and attempted to talk Gypsy out of it, believing that she was still very young, because she wasn't even sure of her age, but she assumed that she's still a teenager because that's what her mom is leaving everybody to believe.
Yeah.
And she was concerned that Gypsy may have actually been accosted by a sexual predator, like a child predator.
I mean, it
online.
makes sense.
It makes sense.
She's still looking out for her.
Yeah.
But
it's a good neighbor thing to do,
Yeah.
Even if it's incorrect. And despite this, Gypsy actually arranged and paid for Nicholas to meet her and her mother in Springfield in the next year. And they actually had a plan, and the plan was for him to bump into her while they were at a movie theater, both in costume, like at a Halloween movie or something. They planned to strike up a conversation and just kind of, start hanging out while their mom was there. And
so schemy, I love it.
Well, she wants to have their relationship move forward, but she doesn't want her mom to know that she's using the internet.
Yeah. Which is why I love it. It's so schemy.
Once they did finally meet, the two went off in secret during the movie for privacy. And after the first meeting, the two continued their relationship over the internet and began developing a plan that would turn the tide of Gypsy's life forever.
Hopefully for the better.
So Gypsy's life...
No.
So Gypsy's life was full of lies, abuse, and fear. And she claims that a person can only take this for so long. After the first meeting with Nicholas, the two corresponded with uh, Gypsy convincing him that the only way to escape her life was to murder her mother, Dee Dee.
Well, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it turned real quick.
Yeah.
So June 14th of 2015, a status was posted online to Dee Dee and Gypsy's shared Facebook page. And the post read, quote, "The bitch is dead."
Oh.
Comments on the post were filled with concerned friends, and a reply later on the post was made again by Dee Dee and Gypsy's account, reading, quote, "I fucking slashed," I'm sorry, this is really graphic, just warning. It reads, quote, "I fucking slashed the fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud, lol." And it's absolutely horrifying. Like, word for word, that's what it said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is
Complete 180.
it is horrifying. Neighbors and family were obviously concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Obviously.
and they called the police. The police and neighbors gathered outside of the home, and when police entered the home to
Yeah.
make a wellness check, essentially, they found Dee Dee in her bedroom on her stomach, brutally stabbed to death, and Gypsy was nowhere to be found.
Oh, no.
Dee Dee had actually been dead for a few days at the time of the discovery, the same day the posts were made. The police actually went on to trace the Facebook posts, and they actually traced it directly back to Nicholas's IP address. And immediately, police tracked Nicholas down back at his home, and upon confrontation, Nicholas confessed right away. He claims that he would never have done this in any other circumstance, that he only did it to save Gypsy. Gypsy
So
was
why
in,
make such a menacing post about it? Like, that just seems like serial killer type thing. Like, you really enjoy doing that.
well, yeah, I mean, again, they had planned this for over a year,
Jesus, man. Like, I didn't like her, but dang, come on.
It's really messed up. The whole thing's really messed up. Gypsy was actually in his home with him and walked right out of the home behind them, also being, taken in for questioning. And again, this was actually really shocking to everybody who knew Gypsy because she literally walked right out of the front door. And her entire life, people believed she had muscular dystrophy.
Yeah,
She was in a
she believed she
wheelchair.
did.
She was sick,
Man.
and here she is, perfectly upright, just walking straight out of this guy's home. When Gypsy was first arrested, she told the police everything of her false conditions. She admitted that the posts made to Facebook page were actually written by her and not Nicholas. So this is her account of the night of the murder.
Well, rule number one, if you're going to make a Facebook post, either don't do it from your own house or use a VPN.
Don't murder people.
Or that.
Yeah.
Preferably that. Wink, wink.
All right, I'm gonna leave. So
It's okay, it's not your time yet.
So the night of the murder, Dee Dee had actually gone to sleep very late. This is all the account from Gypsy.
Yeah.
It says that Dee Dee had gone to sleep very late that night, and Gypsy had stayed up texting Nicholas with messages leaving him instructions for how to get into the house very quietly, unseen and unheard. And that she had left gloves and a knife for him to use. She would hand those to him before, murdering her. She claims that she went into the bathroom, curled up into a fetal position, and covered her ears while he murdered her mother. After the murder, the two boarded a Greyhound bus to return to his home, where they remained until police arrested the two. During the trial, Gypsy was entirely forthcoming and entirely honest about what happened, and she pled guilty to her charges. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison for second-degree murder, with her release date set to July 2025. Godejohn was charged more severely because prosecutors contended that he initiated the murder plot, and it's agreed all around that Gypsy was not the one who physically committed the actual murder.
Yeah.
That she was just, corresponding with him to do it. In January of 2017, his trial was postponed for a second psychiatric exam. This exam contended that he has an IQ of only 82, and he is actually on the autism spectrum. This is suggesting that he had diminished capacity and responsibility. And this is confirmed by his mother, who said, he was diagnosed with autism as a kid, like very early on.
Okay.
And I actually have a picture of him. So this is Gypsy in prison. She's starting to grow her hair back out. It's starting to come in very long. You can see that she's gained a lot more weight.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's actually being able to eat food. She doesn't have a feeding tube in.
What's
Obviously,
around
she's
her
not
neck
happy.
there?
I think that's where, like, an oxygen tube. It might be an indent or something.
Maybe.
And then this is a few years later. She's still in prison, obviously, but her hair has grown out. She's got a full head of very long hair, and she actually gives interviews all the time talking about what happened. And then this is a picture of Nicholas Godejohn.
How do you
I think
grow
this is-
hair that far down?
What, on your neck?
Yeah.
I don't.
Like, how does it connect to your chest
How
hair?
do you grow hair on your face?
I don't know. I don't.
I don't know.
Well, I don't very well. Let me rephrase that.
So Nicholas is, I don't actually know how tall Nicholas is, but just a very basic looking.
He needs a better haircut, first of all.
Very basic looking guy.
Yeah, pretty average.
Brown hair.
Kind of like a strawberry blonde beard.
Yeah.
Very unkempt.
Yeah, very unkempt. So the exam again contended that he had diminished capacity and responsibility. So the new trial was set for November of 2018 and lasted for 4 days. The jurors deliberated for only 2 hours and returned with the verdict of guilty of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. He was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder, and the additional criminal action he was sentenced to another 25 years for.
So, wow.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Many people believe that Gypsy and Nicholas should be held entirely accountable for their actions, regardless of Gypsy's abuse and stunted mental growth, and regardless of Nicholas's autism. Since the murder, Gypsy has grown her hair out, she's gained weight. She claims, actually, that she feels, quote-unquote, freer in prison than she ever did at home with her mother. She says...
I'm sure with
yeah,
all that crazy stuff going on, man.
She says she regrets having planned to murder her mother, and she actually believes that she would be the perfect mother for someone who is actually sick. So to this day, she does regret it, but at the time, she just didn't see any other way out, and people go back and forth on...
I mean, yeah, she wasn't exactly a very good, sane mother, but
no, she wasn't at all.
warrant her getting murdered in her sleep.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, why didn't you just leave? Like, if he was coming to your home anyway, why didn't you guys just walk out the door, get on the bus, and leave?
Well, because, she could have, like, the mother could have easily just been like, oh, my child ran away with this guy.
Right.
Claiming that, he abducted her, she's underage and like that.
Yeah.
So then, by law, she would be handed right back to her.
Right.
I
just think that that's the state that she was in at the point. That's exactly probably what she thought, is like, even if I run away, my mom told the police that I have, mental deficiency, and they're not going to believe anything I say, no matter what I say.
That's what's happened before.
Right.
So
it's a horrible case. She's actually set again to get out in July of 2025.
That'll be an interesting time.
If we make it there.
Yeah, if the world doesn't end by 2021.
Yeah. We'll
Seriously,
see.
Been wild.
It has been a wild year. And
this case was wild. Jeez, man. I cannot imagine living like that for 20 years.
It's a literal hell.
Yeah.
I would imagine. An actual hell. But, she's thriving today.
In prison, of all places.
In prison. So, it's horrible what happened to her mom, but...
Good for her. She's getting better.
Horrible what happened to Gypsy.
Yeah. But she's getting better, so that's the good thing, I guess. But,
yeah.
It is what it is.
Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode, we do hope you come back. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
We're also actually on Amazon Music now.
Yes.
You can also listen to us on any Alexa devices. We're also on TuneIn. We're on pretty much every super major platform now.
Yeah.
You can also find us on YouTube at What Sleep Podcast. We also have a bunch of social media accounts you can follow to find extras such as pictures, as we described later on in the episode, or earlier on in the episode,
Mhm.
actually. I forget how time works
On Instagram, yeah.
on Instagram. You can find us there at What Sleep Podcast. We're also on Facebook, so we have a group, What Sleep Podcast. We're on Twitter at What Sleep Pod, and we also have a subreddit, What Sleep Podcast. So be sure to check us out on there to stay up to date on anything. And with that, that'll go ahead and end this episode, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.